so welcome to HGSA again for another speakers evening. This time we welcome the interim chairman of the Giants, Keith Hellawell. So good evening, Keith.
Yeah. Hi, hello everybody.
Hi. Thank you for joining us and giving your time up.
It's my pleasure, really. No problem at all.
Lovely, great. So first of all, before we get on to your chairmanship and everything else, if I could just ask to give a brief sort of rundown on your career. A lot of people will know of you or heard of you and be aware of what you've done in the past, but if you could just give us a sort of brief sort of life and career summary, please.
Okay, I was born in Home Firth. We moved to Huddersfield when I was 4. We lived in Bath Street, if people know where that is, in the centre of town. I went to Beaumont Street Secondary Modern School. So I'm Huddersfield born and bred, really. Never been far away. I passed the 11 plus and we moved to Kirkburton when I was 11. And I ended up at Dewsbury Technical College, I think they called it then. That's where I started playing rugby. So I played rugby with Dewsbury juniors. I remember we played in some cup match against Hull. That was the first time I had a fight, not on the field, but off the field. We lost, so that was very disappointing. So I've always been really interested in rugby and sport. Just out of interest, when I left school, when I was 15, when I realised I could leave school, in those days you could, and my school report said Keith excelled at sport and little else. So I wasn't a good scholar, but I was a good athlete, involved in all sorts of things. I wanted to be an engineer, but I had no qualifications. So I knocked on the door at the local pit, and asked them if I could go and join. There was an engineer. They told me that was no good because I had no qualifications. So I went down the pit at 15, stayed there till I was 20, and joined the police. Started going out with my wife, Bren, who you've seen at the rugby, when I was 15. And we got married when I was 21. And we've been together ever since. I like the police force. I don't know why I joined it, but I did enjoy it. I lived in a police house in Huddersfield, we lived, and then in a police house, various police houses, until we bought our own. And I don't know, I took examinations, sort of this kid from the back streets with no education, no qualifications. But interestingly enough, when I was in the pit, I went to Barnsley College of Mining and came top in all the exams. So when I was going to leave, they asked me to stay on and go to university, but I didn't want to do that. So in the police service, it was the same, really. I just kept taking examinations and passing and getting promoted, and sort of all the way through to Assistant Chief Constable in West Yorkshire. Following the amalgamation, I was Huddersfield Borough, I joined. On amalgamation, went to Wakefield, West Yorkshire Police, worked my way up to Assistant Chief Constable. Then I worked in CID, uniform, traffic, different places. Then moved to Humberside as Deputy Chief, stayed there 5 years. Cleveland as Chief Constable for 3 years, and then back to West Yorkshire as Chief Constable. So that is potted history of my police career. After a number of years in Huddersfield, in West Yorkshire Police, the Tony Blair, who I'd met when I was up in Cleveland, he was one of my MPs with Mo Molan, asked me to apply for the job of drugs czar. They had advertised it, and I hadn't applied, but Tony asked me if I would apply. So I did, and I got it. I did that job for 5 years. That's, a sort of story in itself. Worked all over the world, did all sorts of things which were interesting, some of them dangerous. When I left, I went into business. I started as non-executive on a property company in Leeds, a large property company, and worked my way up to be chairman of international companies, chairman of a FTSE 100 company. I'm currently chairman of an American IT company. I'm chairman of an Indian facilities management company, and I'm interim chairman of the Giants. How's that? That's my greatest claim to fame. That's me.
Right, so thanks for that.
Impressive.
So you joined the board of the Giants in 2002. Can you just tell us how that came about? How did you come to become a board member?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because whilst I was in the police, West Yorkshire Police, back as Chief Constable, you spend a lot of time in all parts of the county or parts of West Yorkshire. And I was never invited to anything in Huddersfield. I spent a lot of time in Leeds, did ceremonial things and meetings and talks. But I've been here a long time. When one of them, I was speaking at some old folks' place, and one of the mayors said, one of the Huddersfield mayors at that time said, "Well, I didn't know you were all right." He said, "I thought you were a bit of a prat." Right, I didn't know why I thought that. So I got invited to a number of Huddersfield things. But while I was doing the drugs job, I was asked if I would be president of York Knights. So I did 2 years as president of York Knights. And at one of the finals in Manchester, I was on the same table as Ken. I'd never met Ken in my life. Obviously, I'd heard of him, but I'd never met him. And he said, "What are you doing, being president of York Knights? Why aren't you involved in Huddersfield?" And I said, "Well, I've never been asked. It will be an honour to be involved in Huddersfield, but I'd never been asked." He said, "Well, I'm asking you now." So that's how I joined Huddersfield.
So basically over dinner then, really.
Yeah, it's and I've enjoyed it. I mean, it's a long time and things have changed. My first game was the last game we had in the lower league, and I think that was at Lee. Richard, am I right? Was that at Lee? We'd won everything, but it was a very significant game at Lee for us to go up to the Super League.
It was a Widnes, Keith, against
Widnes,
Leeds,
was it? Was it Widnes?
2000
grand final.
Yeah.
That was my first game. Bren was with me, but that was my first game. I just love rugby. And of course, I love Huddersfield. I think with working away and living away and tramping around the world, people don't think you're local. But clearly I am. I've always been around Huddersfield, and even when I've worked away, we've always had a home here. So Huddersfield's where I was born, and Huddersfield's when I'll die. Not yet for a while, I hope, but it is.
Yeah, I suppose when you were in the public eye with the Chief Constable and the drugs and everything, people probably didn't think of you as being local, did they? Like you say.
No, it's funny. It's funny how people see you and also judge you. They think that you are different because you've got a different job, or you sort of work in London, or you're on television or radio or whatever. But those people who know me, I've not changed. I'm just exactly the same. My accent maybe changed a little bit because of education, I suppose, but otherwise I haven't changed. We're still the same. We still go to Morrison's for shopping. I still like a deal, just like everyone else. Having different opportunities in life is really remarkable, and being able to do the things that I've done, I don't think I'd have that opportunity to do them anywhere else in the world. To actually come from a rag-arsed, if you'd excuse my language, in the back streets of Huddersfield, to be a chief constable and then, be a minister in government is something that we really ought to thank our society for. That I've worked in different parts of the world. Not many societies would allow you to do that. You'd have to come from a different background or be blessed in different ways. So I'm really, sort of very humbled, really, to have done what I've done.
Yeah. So of all the roles and everything you've done, Keith, what would you say has given you the greatest satisfaction? What job, what career have you enjoyed most?
It's very interesting. I don't think I could take one. I mean, I think when I was a police officer, to be chief constable of two police forces and deal with the difficulties they had, and both of the forces I was involved with as chief, we had financial problems. We were at the bottom of the performance indicators, and not me alone, but with the team I had, very good teams on both places. We moved ourselves to the top of the performance indicators. So we were detecting more crime, preventing more crime, doing all the things that the people want. So great satisfaction there. I think as a drug czar, to actually have the opportunity to write a strategy for a nation is something that I've got to sort of kick myself in a way to say that to actually, a sort of humble guy from the back streets of Huddersfield writing a strategy for a nation, which wasn't just law and order, which people think it was education, health, treatment, strategies for all of the different parts of this nation, foreign policy. So that strategy involved 16 secretaries of state and 16 divisions, which I oversaw, and my budget there was £10 billion. So it was quite a big job. So I think satisfaction with that. But then in business, to start really with, I got 2 or 3 degrees in my own time because I was told that if I didn't have a degree, people wouldn't recognize there was anything about me. So I've never really been to university. I've just taken them in my own time. But then to be involved in business with little background and work my way up to become chairman of a FTSE 100 company and now chairman of international companies is, so all 3 of them are satisfaction. I think on the other side, writing for the Examiner I quite liked. They asked me if I'd be a guest writer for a month, and I did 5 years. So I did a weekly column for 5 years, which I quite enjoyed that. I did. I thought after 5 years, probably I'd done enough, and I stopped. But I did quite enjoy writing about, because it was all local, about, my family and what's going on in the world and how it affected us in our locality. So I've enjoyed different aspects of my life, and I wouldn't sort of set one aside as being the best. Yeah,
well, you're welcome to write for HGSA anytime if you ever fancy it.
Thank you. I'm doing a book now that I've done 2 or 3 television things, and I've got 3 projects on at the moment. 2, one for an American television fictional thing, one for UK television, and then I'm doing a book. I suppose really it would be based on interviewing Sutcliffe's Yorkshire Rippers interview, part of it, but how the police service has changed. In Huddersfield, when I joined, we paraded at 10 o'clock at night to go out on the night shift. We marched out, and the number 1 beat man dropped off at the back, and the number 1 beat man who finished jumped on the back of the train, which came back in. We had to show we were inspected, we were sent home if our hair wasn't right, or we had a beard or hair. Everything was so much changed, really. And policing has changed immeasurably. In those days in Huddersfield Borough, if you found some property, we'd take it in, we'd bring it back to you if it wasn't somebody hadn't come and claimed it. We would go to every incident. Now, just think about this. We are guaranteed that we would attend to any incident within 7 minutes. And that could be the theft of a milk bottle to a rape. We had 24 hours, detective and uniform traffic man driving around. We would guarantee we would come and see you within 7 minutes. Just think how it's changed now. It's just terrible, really. And the costs have gone up, the numbers have gone up, the administration's gone up, and the bureaucracy's gone up. So don't get me onto that. But anyway, that's the sort of thing I'm involved in doing a book about.
Sounds interesting. Can I just ask you, Keith, about your role on the board? Like I said, you've been on the board since 2002. You're now interim chairman. What has been your role on the board in terms of what you're doing in terms of your directorship?
We have a general role. I think. Richard might help on this. I don't know why, but I've been used for disciplines. So, I sort of, he's put me down as the bad guy because of my business as well, corporate governance and things. You can't believe the work that Richard has done. I'm being really serious, and we thank him in the board, but I'll thank him in public. All the work he's done through COVID. And I've been involved in little bits of that. So I also I've attended meetings in place of Ken in the past. So I've sort of been, that's really my role, but generally getting involved and helping. I think with perhaps with retail background when I was chairman of Sports Direct, a little bit in relation to retail. So general, really, we're all can make sure we're all part of the board, and that we help and get involved in particular issues if we have some expertise in those.
So no specific role and as such?
No.
Richard, do you want to add anything onto that?
No.
No, okay. Thanks.
Well, there's not a lot really to add that Keith hasn't covered. Non-exec directors, if you like, are there for checks and balances. So yeah. Keith will. It's a little bit different in COVID terms. I think Keith would accept, but every month the directors will get a report about every area of the business and the club's finances, and they can rigorously challenge their executives on any issue that they feel is not going right or how they think it should be, so that we're all accountable, really, and that is how it works. Albeit it has been very different and difficult this last year.
Yeah. So was it a unanimous decision to make him the disciplinarian?
I've never asked you that, Richard.
No, that was my choice because it's an area that Keith clearly excels in, given his background. All the directors have different skills and different facets. At the moment, for example, the RFL are looking heavily at the governance of the clubs under their jurisdiction, and one of the reasons why rugby league has been given government assistance is in relation to its behaviour, if you like, as a sport, and governance of clubs is high on their agenda, and we're fortunate really that we've got Keith on our board, who's my go-to governance man, if you like, having seen all of this over many years, I would suggest. So they all have different skills and they're all there to be used as and when. It's just unfortunate that Keith's got the bad guy tag on his various bits and pieces, but that's just how it is.
Okay, thanks, Richard. Sorry, Keith, go on.
All I was going to say in terms of governance, when you're chairman of a public company, until you get there, you don't realise what the job is. People, when I said I was chairman of Sports Direct, people want they have an image of what that is, and I don't know what it was. But really, your job is to run the board. It's to keep as Richard says, the executives in order. But also with a public company, you're answering to the shareholders, to the banks, to the lawyers, to separate investors. So when I was chairman of Sports Direct, I'd spend probably one day a week involved with Sports Direct, Mike Ashley and the business, but I probably spent 2 days in the City of London dealing with investors and bankers when you want, when you want more money, when we wanted 2 or 3 billion for different things, to convince them that it's right and that it's being spent in the right way. So it's that sort of a job. It's like a chief constable in a way. I think chief constables, you don't see much of them these days, but when I was there, you were fronting the police service. It tends to be the police and crime commissioner now, which don't get me on about that. I have an issue over that. But as a chief constable, you see the chief constable in uniform talking about issues, but really he or she is running a business. West Yorkshire Police was £1 billion business with 10,000 people working for it. So you're looking at balance sheets, performance measures, all of those things, managing almost like a big company.
Okay, right. So we'll just move on to your role as the chairman then. So how does that work in the terms of, is it any different to what you were doing before, but you're just kind of like a stand-in for Ken, or is Ken still got any involvement in the board at the moment?
Yeah, again, back to this corporate governance, there's a rule that says if you're involved with the rugby league body, the board or whatever, you can't be involved really with one of the team's boards. It's slightly different at the moment because Ken's taken over. Sorry. no, Ken's taken over to try and sort it out, and I'm sure Ken would talk for himself. But you know there have been issues. I don't really know the depth of them. I don't know any more than you do. But Ken's volunteered, and I don't know that he's made the right decision, because it's not going to be an easy job to get everybody to go in one direction. So Ken really, being Ken, for the good of the game, has almost sacrificed himself to do that. And so it's unusual, but in doing that, he can't be chairman of a team itself. So that's the reality of it. So clearly Ken is still, I talk to Ken, Richard talks to Ken. Ken is Huddersfield through and through. It's Huddersfield blood in his veins, as it is in mine. So yeah, I take over, I chair the board. Richard discusses the board items with me. I call for reports. We had a meeting yesterday and I asked for some reports, but corporate governance, strangely enough, Richard's mentioned that. In terms of the loans, the Rugby League and we've got from government, they put some conditions on that, and the conditions relating to the nature and shape of the board and the way we operate, and whether we operate corporately and whether there's freedom in the board and all of that sort of thing. So, for example, I asked for a paper on that, a report on that. I also, because of women's rugby is coming on, and I know they're not directly involved with us, I asked for a feedback on that. I also asked for feedback on, Ken does all of this, don't get me wrong, it's nothing new, but feedback on the junior teams and the way everything else is working, so that the next board meeting or the one after, we'll have a full review of those things. So that's the way it goes. But as far as Richard's concerned, Rich is chief executive. He's an executive in his own right. He will talk to me as he talked to Ken, but running of the business of the club is Richard, largely. Richard doing that.
Okay, thank you. Right, so I appreciate these next few questions because of the short notice might be a bit difficult for you to answer. But in terms of the announcement about Ken buying the YMCA, how would that affect the Giants in terms of, say, Woodfield Park, Lockwood Park, the training centre, anything? If they do affect it, that is.
Yeah, I think you all know. I said don't whether you all know or not, but Woodfield Park again is close to me because it was owned by Huddersfield Borough Police. And when Huddersfield Borough Police was taken over by West Yorkshire Police, because all of the members of Huddersfield Borough Police owned a share in Woodfield Park, I was part owner of Woodfield Park. I think I was 260th part owner, but I was part owner. And they paid us off by giving us an insurance policy, which I said at the board yesterday, I can no longer find. I don't know where it is. So I think years ago, I suggested that we perhaps look at that, and Ken did. So I've had an interest in that for a long time, since I was a boy. We had great plans for that, but when the YMCA came up, that for us appeared to be a better alternative. The amount of money we've already spent on Woodfield Park, putting it in some sort of order, reducing buildings, that sort of thing. But YMCA had and has got clearly, it's a more established, it's larger, it's better access, and there are facilities there. It's not owned by the club at all. We will be, part user, if I can call it that. It will be through a trust. It's a charitable trust, but it's early days. So I'm not hiding from the question. We did discuss it yesterday, and the sort of decision was, let's get the ink dry on the contract as it is. Let's let the trust sort the thing out and get it all out so that Lindley are happy and everybody's happy, and then let's see how we can use it. But what I can say is that is our focus now of the board. It is no longer Woodfield Park. What's going to happen to Woodfield Park will will be decision by Ken. But our focus is on the YMCA, so that should be the focus of everyone involved with the club. Richard, I don't know whether you want to add to that at all. Richard?
No, that's just how it is at the moment, Keith. It's early days. It's one day in reality.
I think we're going to do some. We're going to put some money into it, aren't we, and do some things. But again, it's early days. So, but I think from this meeting, it is we're now focusing on the YMCA. We're not focusing on Woodfield Park.
So would it affect in terms of the training centre or anything? Would anything be moved to YMCA, or is everything just going to be as it is for now?
I think probably,
Martin.
Yeah, probably for now. Yeah. You know, with Woodfield Park, the idea was we'd move a lot of things down there, and we'd have our own home, and it would save money, and you know, we're giving for training facilities and gyms and that sort of thing. YMCA. That is our intention, but as Richard's saying, it's one day. But that's the intention. But we don't have a plan. I couldn't give you today saying, right, next month we'll do this, the month after we'll do that. There's also the sensitivity, because there are a number of people involved there. It's their home, and clearly we need to be careful.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that. Right, so if we just move on to the rugby side of things now. So one of the questions we're being asked is to ask you, what are your thoughts on the season so far in terms of the 2 games that we've played?
What we have at every board meeting, we have the coach. We have other people sometimes, but we always have the coach. And the first item is the coach reporting to the board. I think unlike other boards, and I don't, again, I'm sure you know this, but we put a great deal of faith in the coach. I think there are other clubs, one which I won't name, where the chairman was down in the dressing room telling the coach and the players what to do. Ken would never do that. We give full confidence to the coach. We clearly have full confidence in the coach. I'm very pleased to have him. We did ask him yesterday what his thoughts were, what he felt about the beginning of the season. He's still, I suppose, disappointed that we haven't won, because he felt that we could win both of those games. He felt that if we have played exactly as he asked them to play, then we would have won both of those games. So he's not in any way worried. He's quite positive, and he gave us a great deal of confidence about the way he's going about it. One thing he did say, which I think you may find interesting, I did, was that he sensed that the club has been in the past with, and he's never ever said anything wrong about any of his predecessors, never. So I wish to say that before I answer this question. What he said was he felt the sense that there was a feeling that the Australian players were the stars of the show, and also almost the sort of make weights, the English players. And his intention is to turn that around. He feels that, you know, we have got the talent and we've got the ability of the English players to succeed without the Australian players. That doesn't mean he doesn't want them. It doesn't mean that they're not valuable or going to add something. But his view is that they need to add to the team, the Huddersfield team, not to be individuals, not to be stars, and also that the Huddersfield players need to have that confidence and build that confidence that they are the spine of the team. They are the team in Huddersfield, and you know, Australian stars that come in should add to that rather than take over and be the focus of that. And I think we all felt that was, you know, really very interesting and very positive.
Just going into that one, Keith. Another question we're being asked to ask is about, there's a couple of rumours going around about Aidan Caesar. Some people claiming he's not injured and that the club are not playing him because of interest from NRL. Can you, as chairman, confirm or deny or put anything on that for the fans.
I can confirm Cesar's staying. He's not going anywhere. He is genuinely injured. It was a minor thing. Then he was coming back and he did something else. I mean, Richard can tell you more specifically than me, but no, he's not. He's not going anywhere. He's staying with Huddersfield.
So he's definitely injured then, and not just not playing because he's waiting for the travel.
Oh, he's definitely injured. Oh, yeah, definitely injured. Yeah, he was going to bring him out. He was going to bring him out for the second game, but then he did a tweak or something. No, he's definitely injured. No, he will be playing.
Yeah, I think Brian, when you chatted to him the other week, I think he did say he'd had a bit of a tweak, didn't he, in training? Can you hear me, Brian? I think, yeah.
It's funny. It's funny though. My wife is an avid reader of the Examiner, particularly the Giants, and she's also on the I don't know what you call it. These on a telephone. This people talk about the game.
Fans forum. Fans forum.
Yeah, and she says to me things like, "Oh, Cesar's going back," or "Somebody's going somewhere else." And I said, "Well, I don't know." Well. And she said, "Well, you're not a very good board member if you don't know this." So I'll ring Richard and said, "No, I don't know anything. That's all rubbish. People are going, it seems every week somebody's going somewhere." I didn't know there was a rumour about Cesar, but no, he is injured. He will be playing and he's staying with us. His contract to stay with us, and that's where he wants to be.
Yeah, lovely, thanks. Yeah, Brian, are you with us?
I am back with you now.
Yeah. Do you remember when you chatted to Caesar a couple of weeks ago? He did say then, didn't he, that he'd had a bit of a strain?
Well, I told him he was an Australian. They all have strains, don't they? So
Yeah.
You jinxed him, didn't you, Brian?
yeah, but he claimed that the Australians were better than the English and they didn't have as many injuries. But obviously, he's proved himself wrong now.
Yeah, well, he has. Yeah. So,
Talking of injuries, that was a thing that we did raise. We have in the past had a number of injuries. I mean, past seasons, more injuries than other people. And we had a review, Richard instigated a review some years ago about playing on hard surfaces and soft surfaces. We seem to have a number of soft tissue injuries at the moment. So at the board yesterday, it was raised to ask whether maybe we should look at that. Are they training them too hard? Are they training them not hard enough? What is it? So that's the sort of item that comes up at the board, because we get an update on all the injuries, where they are, how many weeks they've got, when they anticipate they'll be back, all of that sort of thing. But when we get specific trends in injuries, and it's soft tissue at the moment, a number of them, then we ask, don't say we say what's going wrong, but we ask for a report back to say, is there something in the training that is causing this? Because if we don't anticipate or expect a high number of soft tissue injuries at this part of the season.
Richard, you had your hand raised?
I was just going to say, we do investigate these rumours, and on that particular disgraceful Cesar rumour, the culprit has been identified and the matter has been dealt with. So I don't think we'll be seeing any more rumours about that.
Well, somebody even suggested that his father had died as well, which is appalling. Really.
Trevor, it's been dealt with, and I don't think the person who started it will be starting anything again.
Good.
Absolutely disgraceful behaviour.
Yeah.
well, at least we've had that clarified. So thanks to you both for that. Keith, if I can just, you say your first game's 2002. Is that your first game ever? That
first game on the board, yeah.
On the board,
yes.
right? So,
yes.
So when was your first game as a fan, as a Fartown fan?
Oh, when I was a little boy, when I lived in Bath Street, we used to climb over the fence, if I'm being honest, both for rugby and cricket. Both for rugby and cricket. We didn't have any money. I also got my way into the swimming baths as well at Cambridge Road, but those are another stories for another day.
I used to go that to go see Brian play.
Yeah.
Over the fence. After 5 minutes of me climbing out.
Yeah, to be honest, there were more people climbing out than climbing in when Brian was playing. Move on, Keith.
Is that how you want to put towards that, Brian?
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
You can't take it.
So we're going back to Keith being a fan then. So what's your best memory from the past then? Your best memory of being a Fartown fan?
I can't give you one. I can't remember. I really can't. My life was so difficult, I think, in those days. We were not very well at all, not very, we were extremely poor. And those, that time of my life, particularly when I'm from 4 to 12, was not a very happy time. So I didn't really, as a child, I couldn't tell you any of the players. So we didn't get newspapers and we'd no television or radio. I just sort of hung over the fence, for the love of it, really. Cricket as well. I do remember seeing Len Hutton bat, but that was the day I remembered that. But I'd be making it up if I tried to say I remember a specific game, because I don't.
You don't remember Brian Blacker and Gary Senior and people like that then?
I think they were a bit after me, weren't they?
Well, I'm only a young man, Keith. As you know, I'm only a young fella.
It's not that old, isn't Brian?
I think Gary were a bit, but I don't know about Brian.
I do recall going into a bar in Perpignan and being told I was just, and pardon my French, a shit Gary Senior. So
Oh, that wasn't it?
it was very true, yeah.
You didn't deny it though, did you?
I wouldn't do such a thing.
I can't deny it.
No, exactly. No, true. Keith, another question. Will you be changing anything within the club while you're chairman if you think it needs changing, or are you just sort of steadying the ship while Ken's away, sort of thing?
I think we've got a really firm basis. I'll be steadying the ship. I mean, if an issue does come up, something that's major, then we will change. But I would talk to Ken. I mean, I just wouldn't. I just wouldn't. I can't imagine. I mean, let's say COVID came up. We've had it, but something major that affects the club. Clearly, we'd have to do things in a different way. But I would involve Ken. I just wouldn't do it. So we would change. Yes, if things were necessary, we would change. But I wouldn't unilaterally decide to make something different, because not because I'm frightened to do that. Because my track record in business and things is that change things for the better. But Ken is very good. He runs a tight board, a good board. His heart is in the club. There's nothing really needs changing unless circumstances change.
Okay, thank you. We've heard from the coach Ian Watson. We've heard from Greg Brown. We've heard from some of the players, and they all say the same thing. They expect us to be up there challenging for some sort of silverware this season. Do you have the same expectations and high hopes?
Yes. I think I've been here now in the appointment of a number of coaches over the years, because the way we appoint a coach is, I'll say Richard advertises, but it's not like that. When there's a vacancy, there's people are jumping on the telephone to say that they were interested, but we do advertise. And then I'm sure Richard's taken you through this, but we do a proper interview procedure. We look at all the people, we assess them. Each of us, each member of the board, assess them. We then come together and draw up a short list, and then we interview the candidates. If it's Australians, obviously in the past we've done it by a telephone link, but in the past we've interviewed face-to-face English coaches, and then we decide who to appoint. So what I want to go on and say is that Ian, I think, is the one that impressed me most in terms of all of the coaches I've interviewed. So it's not just the ones that were successful, it's the ones that were unsuccessful that are in very big positions and positive positions in the game now. his methodology, his commitment, his knowledge of the game, and his reading of the game, and his sort of his processes are extremely impressive. So whilst you may think that 2 games we've lost, you know, a bad start when we anticipated a good start because of all the hype, you can see the way he's developing the team. And also, if you look back at the places he's been before, they've not done that well at the beginning of the season, but at the end of the season, they've done remarkably well. And what Ian says is that, not being disparaging to previous teams, he's got a better team here. He's got a better number of players. He's got a better setup than he's had in the past. And therefore, you know, he's confident, and it gives us confidence, and all the fans can be confident.
Yeah. So he's not going to be under pressure or anything at the end of the year if, you know, if we don't reach the playoffs or don't get to a cup final or anything like that. He's going to be given plenty of time to build and do what he needs to do. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes looking back in the past, now this conversation I've had with Ken and different members of the board, you look back at some of the coaches, and we've perhaps been too long in letting it go on, as it were, letting the losses go on and go on and go on. And so you always, a coach always comes under pressure in his own mind if he has a number of losses. What I found in this board is that it is so supportive of the coach. Sometimes I think in the past we've been too supportive, and I'm not saying this, Richard will know, I've said this at the board meeting. Sometimes we've perhaps been too supportive, and we maybe should have jumped in earlier. So we're not a board that is all the time putting the coach under pressure. We give each coach, whoever he's been, the opportunity to show us what he's got. And I come back to what I've said. Ian has impressed me more than any coach we've had in the past, the way he thinks, the way he looks at the game. So I doubt there would be those pressures at the end of the season, because I'm fairly confident we're going to be really pleased by the end of the season.
Yeah, hopefully that won't be a factor, will it, come the end of the season? No. So just we're nearly at the end now, Keith. If I could just ask if you've got a message to all the supporters, but more importantly to the wider public of Huddersfield, to get behind the Giants and everything. I know obviously at the moment it's a bit difficult to do that because of the restrictions, but when things are open again, is there a message you want to give to people?
I think the first message I wrote before the game the other day is thanking our supporters for supporting us through these bad times. The number of people who said, "Okay, we will, you know, we will give to the club what we spent last year. We recognise that the club needs it, and the club's looked after us," and that's one of the reasons why the prices are as they are this year, as a payback almost. But I do think it is important that people support this club. I cannot understand, genuinely can't understand, why we don't get the support we did, 40, 50 years ago. It can't be money. I know times are hard. I do know that. But when you look at the price of a season ticket, or whatever it's called now, sorry, Richard, what's it called now? A card, is it? Richard?
Season card, is it?
It's a card. It's a card, isn't it? Yeah. It's so cheap. I mean, when you think that coffees are £3 or £4 each, it's nothing really. So we sometimes think it is the money, and we're always conscious of that as a board. But it can't be that much, particularly now you can pay it at so much a month, or as staggered payments. And the game, we've looked what we do. You probably, some people think. I mean, my wife says, that there are a lot of codgers on there. They don't know anything about the game, don't do anything about it. We do look at, we analyse. We have Richard analyse, when we've reduced the prices, does it increase the numbers? When we've increased the prices, does it reduce the numbers? And it's rather strange how we felt at one stage that it really depends what we do on the field. But when we do really well on the field over a season, it hasn't affected it that much. So why do people not want to come to the rugby? I don't know. I wish I did.
Sorry, Keith, is that something maybe the Supporters Association could help out by trying to find out those reasons? I mean, I know we've asked our members and everything before, but there must be a reason why. I mean, it can't just be, simply because in the past because the crap. It can't be that, can it? Really,
no.
Had some sort of success, so there must be some other underlying reasons why people don't want to support them.
There must be. I mean, it would be, whatever you could do really would be very helpful. But because we have tried things. I mean, we've tried things on-field entertainment, children for nothing or very low prices, shirts. I mean, we have tried. And we have got, it's, for me, I mean, I love rugby. For me, my son follows town. He lives up in Newcastle now, but I've been to a few games with him, and I just can't compare at all. You just cannot compare the excitement and the thrill and the endeavour of rugby players compared with football. But, when town were in the Premier League, they were 20,000. I don't know. So anything we can do, we do scratch our heads. Honestly, we do scratch our heads and say, how can we get more people here? And when we were top and when we had all of those things, we got a few more, but we didn't get the numbers that we have had in the past. And Richard tells us these again. We say, well, is it just us? Are we losing fans and other people aren't? But he says everyone's down. I mean, they start from a higher base. You take Leeds and Saints and those teams, but they are down. All teams tend to be down and going down. Whether it's television, just whether the younger generation want to play games on machines rather than watch, I don't know. Do you guys know, Richard? We've talked about this in the past.
I suppose it could be something we could look at maybe discussing in future with HGSA and the club and finding ways which we can take that forward and find out what the issue is. I mean, we've all got individual. We've all spoke to people who've got individual reasons why they won't want to come, but we can't seem to put a finger on the main one.
No. I mean, people do get disillusioned when we do really badly. I know that, but a large proportion of them come back the next season. I mean, we've done really well in terms of numbers this season. We've gained some, we've lost a few, but we've gained more than we've lost. And Richard and his team go out to the people that that were supporters last year and say, why? Is there anything we can do to help? What have we done wrong? Some respond to that and some don't. So it's not as if we just ignore it. We do follow up on those, and we do, we do try. And I mean, I've been involved in PR and involved in different businesses, and it's a good product. If you call it a product, rugby league is a fantastic product. You'd think people would be queuing up to watch us. I mean, when I was chief of police in North Hollywood in Los Angeles, and clearly you have the football team, they call it there. The waiting list, years waiting to get season tickets to the game. I worked in Chicago, the same with the Bears. People are waiting years to get a ticket, to get a season ticket to go. And their games, you've watched them on television. I mean, they're rubbish compared with ours. There's about 5,000 of them, and they're stopping every 2 minutes. And ours, 4 quarters takes about 4 15-minute. 4 15-minute quarters takes about 4 hours because of the breaks. The players are only on 3 or 4 minutes. Yeah, that's all they are. But people watch it. So
Maybe Richard, is that something we could look at down the line, having a discussion about this and see what we can do?
Well, you're more than welcome. The only defence I have on it is to defend Huddersfield, and that it is not a Huddersfield problem. It is a game-wide problem. We get a bit of stick about it, but it is a game-wide problem. And Keith's right in saying that we ring people, we email them, we contact them and say, why haven't you bought? And I think the last, and on a number of years, I've shared all that information with the board. And it takes a lot of wading through, but there has never, ever been one consistent reason that says we've lost 10% because of X. If I can honestly tell you that if we contact 100 people as to why they don't renew this year, on past evidence, we'll get 98 different replies to why they don't renew. But I want to defend Huddersfield. It's not just us. It's every club that has this issue. Nobody's increasing their crowds. So it's a game-wide problem. But again, open to any ideas, any suggestions, any help on anything. But don't just think it's us, because it isn't.
No. That's fine. Right, I've got a couple more questions, Keith. We've got one from Bryn. That's okay?
Yeah, no problem.
Hiya, Keith. Got nothing whatsoever to do with rugby.
Right.
I just wondered what years you were at Bowman Street, because that's where I went as well.
How old are you?
72 next week.
Oh, well, I'm nearly 80, so I was there before you.
Yeah, you were, weren't you? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cheers.
Yeah.
And just while you're there, Bryn,
Bryn,
and
Yeah.
I went to Bowman Street as well.
Who's that?
Brian Blacker.
Oh, hiya, Brian. Yeah.
You must be
Well,
on
before your time, though, Bryn.
yeah, I know.
Before your
I know.
time.
I know you're,
I only
David.
did 6 months. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I only did 6 months though, and then they shut it down.
Oh,
Well,
right. You to
I was
blame then,
born-
are you?
I'm 79 this year. I was born in 42, and I came to Huddersfield in 46. So I was 4. So I started going there when I was 5. So that was 1947, and then we came from Huddersfield when I was 12. So that's it. So those are the years I was there.
You were probably just leaving as I was starting there, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I used to play marbles in the mud there, and you know that flat roof building. I've climbed up on there for some balls a few times. You know those little flat, I've climbed up there, looking stupid, really. When I look back, how I could have killed myself, but I was the stupid one that climbed up on top, threw the balls down.
Yeah. I
Bryn, you
remember
can
that.
be relieved now. We didn't have a fight with him in the playground.
I'll tell you what, I moved. You're tough there. I mean, I wore clogs because we were poor. My uncle made clogs, and I was squint-eyed, so I wore glasses. So you can imagine the stick I got.
Oh, yeah.
So I had so many fights there. And when I came to Kirkburton School, I turned up on my own, which I had to do at Bowman Street. But there was the cock of the school came to talk to me and said, you think you're a tough man, but now you're in Kirkburton, you'll learn. So I splattered him straight in the face and dropped him. And that was the end of that. So I
Start as you mean to go on.
I got a rousting from the teacher the first day. Oh dear. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that.
Excellent. We've got another question from Daz.
Okay.
When you're ready, Daz.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot we're on mute. Keith, just going back to your reference with football and lack of people in Huddersfield supporting us, but obviously they will support the football team when successful. With the football team not being very successful at the moment, is there an opportunity for the Giants to try and get into their supporters who are not happy with them? So I know in the past we used to do joint tickets, didn't we? For £5 each, can go watch each other's games. Is this something that the club would maybe look at tapping into again to try and increase our crowds and interest from the football side of things?
I think we'll do anything. I mean, we tried that. Rich, can you tell us the update on that? Because I know you constantly try and work with the football club to to improve both our supporters base.
Yeah, I think you nailed it in one, Keith. We'll do anything. There was the football club, I believe, have a monthly circular to all their supporters, and in the last one, which went sometime in March, there was a direct message for support for us and our season ticket offer. And what we do every day is we have a graph every day of the season ticket sales, and on the following days that went out, we had a little spike on the graph. So the assumption would be that we did pick up some new supporters as a result of advertising through Huddersfield Town. So that was good news.
Could we, in relation to that, we obviously, from legal point of view, we can't use their database for our fans, or could we? Would they use their good offices to send something out to all their supporters on their database? If we were happy to send something from them on our database, could we do that, Richard?
They have done that, to be fair to them, yeah. And only just recently, yeah, they have.
Have
relationships
okay.
between Ken and Phil are very good.
Good.
Trevor Kay has got a question.
The club's advertising that we're limited to 4,000 spectators for the first game. But have I not read it somewhere? If your stadium's big enough, you can have 25% of the capacity.
Yeah, I'll let Richard answer this because it's quite technical. I mean, it's something I did ask him on the telephone a couple of weeks ago. Do you want to go over why we can only have 4, Richard, please? Well,
it is very complex, and without throwing an excuse in, Katie's just made the tea, so I'm going to have to scoot quickly. It's a tough. How do I start to explain this one? It's not our decision; it's the safety team's decision. What we will do, Trevor, is host every Giants supporter side on, because we know that's what they want. The reality of every supporter sitting in their seat on the first 2 games is negligible. You'll be given a seat on the first 2 games. Some will get their own seat, some won't. That's going to be an impossible task for us. We've got to link in with bubbles, etc. So that the 4,000 for us, in a nutshell, is the Kilnabank and the Riverside lower and upper.
Right.
We could, if we so wished, open the, for instance, fantastic media stand for further Giants supporters. However, we have no track record of getting anybody to go in that stand, and the cost of opening that stand alone is enormous. The cost of opening any stand in COVID is enormous. What we may well do, depending how the numbers look, is we could, if we think the away team can bring supporters, put 800 people only in the behind the posts stand, because that's where they're used to sitting anyway. That, however, is far from straightforward. In a nutshell, we, in theory, have to know every single person who's in the ground, where they've come from, and where they are sat. And the 4,000 is heavily dependent on access rather than the size of stadium. So our weakness, for example, is concourses. They are problem areas. Corridors are problem areas. But the plan at the moment, there's nothing that I'm seeing that says we can have any more than 4,000 Huddersfield people in those first 2 games.
Right. They are
and if we don't get those first 2 games right, there could be even less going forward.
Well, at the moment, they're doing COVID vaccinations, aren't they, under the concourse on the far
They will
side.
continue to do that, yeah.
Yeah, the problem is, I know somebody who's on our committee 2 days before our first game. Now, will those COVID facilities still be there while we're trying to get into that stand?
So, Trevor, I lost you there halfway through. Could you repeat that, please?
Yeah, I understand one of our committee members is going on our first game, is it the 11th of June? right? He has his second COVID jab 2 days before our first game. Will that cause a problem with COVID facilities in that stand, you know, for people getting into it?
No.
Shouldn't do, no.
No.
Can I just add, and I gave Richard a shout out at the beginning. I think that what we are doing, and this is from the board, we've always tried to do things right. Sometimes, I mean, in the past, it's been frustrating that, for example, when one club went down, we weren't allowed to have particular players and other clubs were. So there's been a great deal of inconsistency. But what we've always tried to do is to do things right. Under Ken's leadership, we always try and do things right. So in relation to COVID, rugby league is being set up, as Richard was saying yesterday, as one of the highlights, one of the sports that is doing it right. So we are doing it in Huddersfield, as I hope the rest of the rugby league is, just to the letter of the law. We're being put forward as an example, so we want to do it right. I mean, in the past, 4,000, if we, I mean, we've done better than that. I mean, one season we had an average of approaching 8, but between 4,000 and 5,000 is what we get, other than, you know, the big games. So it shouldn't be too irksome. We will, as soon as we can, have more people in. But it's interesting what Richard touched upon there. You know, having 4,000, we may actually lose money in the way we've got to look after everybody and do all the things we have to do. So it isn't as easy as people might think.
Yeah, it's a bit of a...
But I'm just going to jump for my tea, Trevor, if I can just jump in there, just to let you know as well, we'll put more information out about this later. But if we get the 4,000 wrong and people decide, because we can't force people to sit in seats. If, for instance, a gang of 100 decide they all want to sit together, we can't physically evict them. We will probably get shut down the week after and we'll go back to behind closed doors. So we have to accept, unfortunately, for the first 2 games, things are going to be very different. But if we get it right, that should lead to better days. If we get it wrong through people's, shall we say, disappointing behaviour, it will go the other way. And we need it at the right time to get that message out. Inconvenient as it might be, that I'm not sitting in A7, I'm sitting in A9, and I'm not sitting next to Trevor, I'm sitting next to Martin. That is going to be the way of the world for the first 2 games.
So we definitely won't be doing a Featherstone Rovers then.
No,
we won't be doing a Featherstone Rovers and having get-together.
We won't be doing a Featherstone, but we will need the help from everybody on the first 2 games to behave in a COVID secure manner and have some personal responsibility for themselves and obviously everybody around them to make sure everything goes as safely as we possibly can. And then, as Keith says, fingers crossed, we're allowed some more in towards the end of June onwards, I think the date would be. But it's going to be a challenge. There's no doubt about it. It's going to be a challenge.
Richard, just on that, Janice has just asked about away fans. I'm presuming away fans are not included in that 4,000, are they?
No.
Is it 800? Is it 800, Richard, away fans?
If we decided to open the away end, it's 800 only in there, yeah.
But could that be 800 of our supporters as well, or not?
It could be, but
right.
We've no track record of selling anything behind the goals here. No. And the fact that we might say, Trevor, you're behind the goals and Martin, you're not, will frankly cause World War III. I'm absolutely
I promise I won't cause a problem.
No, I'm not bothered about sitting next to Trevor, I'm all right.
I don't want to sit next to Trevor.
You understand the general principle.
I don't mind sitting next to Sheila, though.
If we can sell 4,000 season cards...
Richard, on a serious note, and apologies for jumping in on this, but you know, if when it comes to getting fans in the stand, and if you're needing some support for extra marshalling, you know, things like that, just to make sure, like volunteers to help people find where the seats are. You know, we are happy to be involved and happy to find people that will help you on the game day. You know, we're fans. We want to get people into the ground safely. We want to enjoy, you know, the game same as everyone else. We want to be there. So we're happy to get involved to help you guys to just add a little bit more, you know, I would say like stewarding, but like more marshalling to get people to the right place at the right time.
Yeah. Again,
No, it's got to be.
I'd love to take you up on that offer, but the regulations surrounding who can and who can't steward, because with Council Road and Caresdale, you've all got to go on courses, you've all got to do disclaimers, you've all, honestly, it's, if it were like Lockwood Park, where we have a wonderful time and everybody enjoys themselves, everybody does the best, and it works well, it'd be fantastic. But the rules and regulations surrounding the John Smiths make such wonderful gestures unattainable, unfortunately. I'll try, Martin, and put that forward. But I absolutely know what the response will be, and we will be G4S and the resulting bill up to our eyeballs without a shadow of a doubt.
Right.
But it is what it is. My attitude on it all is we've got to start somewhere. So let's start where the government and the officers tell us we have to do, get it right, and hope they will let us then push on. Start will not be ideal, but it's a start.
Wonderful.
Yeah, smashing. Right, cheers. Thanks for that, Richard. Right,
Thanks,
if we've got,
Keith.
has anybody got any more questions for Keith? Because I'm sure he's wanting to go get his tea as well. No more questions, right? I'd just like to say thank you again for giving his time up and come to have a chat with us, and
Good.
and hopefully we can maybe get another one again in the future, possible.
Really, I'm very happy. I've quite enjoyed it. And can I thank you all for your support and what you do? You know, you sort of work away in the background and you don't make a lot of noise, but you really support the club, and we do appreciate what you do. And so, as acting chairman, can I thank you for that from myself and from the board?
Thank you very much. I'll hand over to our chairman now, and he can let him have a few words if that's all right.
Yeah,
Thanks.
of course.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Keith, for joining us. I think it was it's been a good session, a good hour. I think we've got a lot out of it. I think everyone's enjoyed themselves. So hopefully you'll enjoy yourself as chairman in an interim, as I am at the moment. So yeah, all the best, and hopefully we'll see some results on the field under your tenureship. That Ken Davey, we never won out.
Right.
Well, it's all about Keith.
Yeah, it's all about Keith.
Right.